Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. This is One Shot to Be Survivor to Another Restoration. My name is Lori Ann Smith, and I'm glad to be here. It's Monday morning, July 3rd, 7 o'clock here in the morning, and just glad to be back. Took a month off. Just needed to take a break and do some work on some anger issues and anger management, and also just needed a break. I was a little bit tired. So I'm glad to be back, and thanks everybody who's been tuning into my shows, and I hope you're all well, and I hope your day is going good so far. I just woke up a little while ago, and just having a coffee, waking up here. So yeah, thanks for joining me here. I appreciate it. This is just a morning reflection, really. Just looking at, positive reinforcement. What do I need to work on? How am I feeling? These are things that we can do for ourselves. Take some time out, whether it's morning or in the evening or at some point during the day, as survivors of abuse, sort of do a self-check, see how we're doing and what we need to work on, what seems to be triggering us or what seems to be bothering us, and what we can do for self-care, coping mechanisms, meditation, things like this, whatever works for you. So that's why I'm doing this show. Sort of keeps me on track with my healing journey. And it sort of makes sure that I'll actually work on it throughout the week, right? So I do these shows Mondays and Friday morning, and just keeps me going on it. So that's why I'm doing this show. And also just to be a support for survivors out here. I know it's really tough, to find people out here, who even can validate what we've been through or what we're going through. And, we've all been through different things, but we all share that commonality of being abused, some way, somehow, by someone or, whoever in our lives. And so just to be a bit of support out here for people. Also, just another voice just to say, you certainly didn't deserve that. Nobody does. And just to be a bit of support to say, you don't give up, right? Just keep going. And so thanks for joining me. I appreciate it. We're looking at Havoca, HAVOCA.org. I've got that info in the chat room if anybody wants to sit in there. And this chat room is up this morning. And so you do a safety check first. If you're a survivor of abuse, make sure that you're safe enough to be listening to this show, first of all. And it's not going to trigger you, send you backward in your healing journey. So you want to make sure you're safe enough to be listening. And do that. You can get that information lots of places. Havoca actually has a section on it. HAVOCA.org. Havoca, Help for Adult Victims of Child Abuse. And also the ASCA Survivor to Thriver Manual. That's a good one. I always talk about that one because I read through that whole thing, about 60 pages long. And it's the ASCA Adult Survivors of Child Abuse Morris Center program. They have a Survivor to Thriver Manual. You can check that out. And just make sure you're safe enough. If you're not sure if you're safe enough or not, whether this is going to trigger you or any information like this from anyone would trigger you, you need to make sure you're safe enough before you listen. If you're not sure, get that information first and then come back and listen to my shows. Because, any information from another survivor, another person who's been abused, any information like this can trigger anyone, so especially survivors of abuse. So you want to make sure you're safe enough. So do a safety checklist on your, for yourself and make sure you're safe enough before you listen. Otherwise, just turn the show off. You won't be hurting my feelings at all. And everybody else, listen at your own discretion. I'm talking about abuse, very, uncomfortable material. That's why we're talking about it. That's why I'm talking about it on air, here on Blog Talk Radio. Because it's always just the fact that people just want this shoved under the carpet. They don't want to hear about it. They don't want to know about it. No, nobody wants to know about abuse, but unfortunately those survivors are stuck with it. So this, you have to listen at your own discretion, right, if you're anybody out there listening to my shows. And we'll get right into this. How am I feeling this morning? Just doing like a morning reflection, really. How am I? We could ask ourselves these things. How are we doing on our healing journey? Any particular things we need to work on? How am I feeling this morning? Actually, this morning I feel really good because I took a month off, a little over a month actually. Took a break and slept in a little bit, got some rest, and started just to enjoy the summer with my husband who's terminally ill, and got some rest, a little bit of rest, not a lot of rest because I'm busy, but I did do some resting, a little bit more than normal, so I feel a little bit better, and did some work on my anger issues that I was having there, and also some just some sort of self, I want to say just, sort of negating those voices, sort of not self-affirmations, but just positive self-talk and positive thinking, which people sort of say, well, does that really work or whatever? But overall it does, because I took a month off, and instead of focusing on negative stuff, I've really focused on sort of the positive and in my life, and sort of took a look at how things are going in my life, and the fact that I've come a long way on my healing journey, and really started looking at a little bit more positives instead of negatives. And so I found that was very helpful. Hopefully you can hear me. I had a little strange blip there, but hopefully you can still hear me streaming. But yeah, it's just I'm feeling pretty good this morning, and overall. So what do I need to work on? Lots of stuff I need to work on still. But I like this info from Havoka. This is called Feelings. It's under their Information for Survivors tab called Feelings. And we're looking at a section here. Last time we looked at Your Thinking Grows Up. Now this section next up is Uncle Albert's method. So if you go 2 shows back, not the last show because I was just talking on the last show, but the show previously to that one would be this where we left off. And they said, the good news is it's never too late to begin the task of mental housekeeping and helping your thinking to grow up. Because, like they said, as we pass through our teen years developing abstract reasoning skills, no one takes us aside for a time to check out the degree of mental pollution acquired during our mentally vulnerable childhood years. Some of the troublesome thinking patterns and faulty beliefs of childhood will persist in even extremely intelligent people. And so they're saying it's good news. We can actually help ourselves to help our thinking to grow up. And so they have one of the methods that they actually list here is Uncle Albert's method. They said Albert Ellis is at this moment an elderly professional helping dude living somewhere in the USA. And they've written here, I don't know who wrote this article, but this is Havoka.org. They said in the 1950s he developed the following way of helping people deal with their mental pollution, though he didn't call it mental pollution. He called it having irrational beliefs. His approach is called rational emotive therapy. Albert Ellis's method goes as directly as possible to the roots of emotional distress, the actual thinking errors, and the faulty beliefs that are active in the present moment. So it is a method that relies upon you to develop the ability to observe your own thinking, tracking down the erroneous bits in order to challenge and to dispute them. It is based upon the notion that your greatest asset is your ability to expand your understanding. So they said here, in the rational emotive way of looking at emotional distress, anything that triggers habituated thinking and feelings is called an activating event. So makes sense, doesn't it? An activating event can be anything that happens. So like they list here, it could be anything like an insulting remark, a conversation, a smell, a memory, a shouting match, bad news, good news, the time of day, the weather, anything at all. And they said here, the activating event triggers some of your habituated thinking patterns, thinking which conforms to your beliefs, your irrational or faulty beliefs, and your realistic, reasonable, rational beliefs. So when your thinking patterns kick into gear, your emotional energies are given their shape in that moment. So they list here, this is the sort of, I guess, what that Albert Ellis's method really is all about. They list it's 5 steps here. 5 steps to it. They said you notice that you are upset, disturbed, depressed, angry, frustrated, scared, or whatever. Number 2, secondly, you watch your thinking so that you know what emotion, shaping thoughts are going around in your noggin or in your head there. And they said this skill takes some time to develop since so much of our thinking is automatic and habituated. It just happens without our awareness of it. Number 3, you identify the irrational, faulty beliefs and the crooked logic. You identify it. What is it? 4, you debate, dispute, and argue with the faulty beliefs and thinking errors. You insist on reliable evidence. You dispute your habituated wonky notions vigorously. You do not just sit back and let them pummel you. And then, there's 6 steps here. Number 5, in the instant that your disputing and debating begins to take effect, your emotional state will change. Of course it will. Your emotional energies have just been given a different thought shape to flow through. And number 6, good work. Number 7, reach over your shoulder, pat yourself on the back. So that's, I guess, just one way that, we can actually deal with faulty or, like they're saying, disturbing sort of thought patterns, really, that are triggered by events in our life. For instance, this just has everything to do with everything, especially for abuse survivors. It could be sitting around having a perfectly normal day, what most people consider to be normal. And somebody will say something to us, or we'll hear something somewhere, even if it's on the TV, seeing something on TV, or witnessing something like somewhere out in public, or hearing something from somebody. And it could trigger some thought process in our head, like, that'll trigger something that will tell us some faulty lie, like, that's just not true at all, like, I'm just a loser. That's what my parents told me, or whatever it is that our abusers told us, I'll never make it. I'm a loser. I deserve to be dead. I should have been born dead. Things like this. Very faulty, irrational, stuff that rolls around in my mind when I'm triggered. And even sometimes I'm not even triggered. It just comes in, just pops in. We can actually, anything like that's happening, for whatever reason it's been triggered, and we're all of a sudden thinking these things because it's obviously now it's upset us. Like they said, you're upset, you're disturbed, depressed, angry, frustrated, whatever. Watch your thinking so that you know what emotion-shaping thoughts are going around, right? And we probably should just write this stuff down. I mean, journaling is very important. I do a lot of journaling. Excuse me, lately I haven't been doing a lot, but I do normally. Identify the irrational, faulty belief, right, and the crooked logic. Now debate and dispute it and argue it, right? And that's really good. That's sort of what I started to do 10 years ago, actually, when I started my healing journey back in 2007. Did the bulk of it in 2009, but I had started in 2007. Just, didn't do a lot of work, but I did some. And I started just looking at the fact that, I did not deserve to be treated that way, and I'm not a loser. I'm not worthless. I didn't deserve to be born dead, as my abusers told me. And that's faulty. That's wrong thinking. So why do I then believe it? Why would I believe such irrational, hurtful stuff that was just meant to hurt me? There's no truth based in it at all. And so these are things that, for whatever these things are, these faulty thinking or faulting systems of belief systems that we have built in our, set up in our minds, in our thinking patterns, in our thought life from the abuse. We don't have to buy into that. We don't have to believe that, and we don't have to buy into it, and we shouldn't. And a lot of times, this stuff really haunts a lot of survivors of abuse, because it just keeps coming around and around and around. And it's horrific. So I like what they say here. Honor your feelings. They say, you're getting the idea that troublesome, disturbing feelings are caused by thinking. On this basis, you may begin to censor some of your difficult emotions because you have had an idea that they are based upon sloppy or crooked thinking. So you also may be censoring feelings because they are no fun. Shame, for instance, is a common candidate for censorship. And shame certainly is no fun. But they said, alert, try not to censor your feelings. So they said, your feelings are your direct experience of yourself, your life energies, even if they are all dressed up into the shapes of panic, depression, disgust, or shame. Try not to censor them. Suppressing your own life force is not a good idea. It'll make you sick and eventually turn you into Mount St. Mount St. Glory. And that's just true. Mount St. Helens, it blew, right? That volcano blew. And that's exactly what happened to me at the age of 42. I mean, it happened to me periodically through my life, through my 20s and 30s and into my 40s, early 40s, where this stuff was in the drawer and it was starting to, I knew it was going to blow. I knew it was going to explode at some point because I had suppressed it all. That's what, suppressing, I guess. It wasn't really denial. It was just like, I'm going to stuff it all in a drawer and I'm going to lock that drawer because I don't know how to deal with it, And it did make me sick, and it did eventually erupt into Mount St. Lawrence. So it says, when you push your feelings away, it will be difficult for you to get to the roots of your tough to live with emotions, your thinking. And pushing your feelings away is actually throwing the baby out with the bathwater. You really want to help your emotional energies to get out of the confinement of habitual thinking. So don't censor your feelings. For you who have been sexually victimized, the experience of emotions may be difficult. Be gentle with yourself in the victimization experience. Your rights were severely trampled by the person who assaulted you. And I mean, that's what they're saying. But I would say anybody who's a survivor of any abuse, they're all horrific, and, they all have their own set of, I would say, equally painful, horrible leftovers for survivors. Whether it's emotional abuse, psychological abuse, physical abuse, verbal abuse, spiritual abuse, whatever kind of abuse it is. This stuff is all horrible, and, we need to be, like they said, be gentle with yourself. In the victimization experience, your rights were severely trampled by the person who assaulted you or the people that assaulted you, right? And they said, you have a right to all of your feelings. So, quote unquote, I shouldn't be feeling like this is a thinking error that is begging for demolition. And that's very true. I shouldn't be feeling like this. So many times as survivors of abuse, we sit around and because we don't want to be feeling like this, so we say, I shouldn't be feeling like this. Maybe somebody's told us in the past, can't you just get over it? You should be able to just get over that. I mean, that was 25, 30 years ago. How long are you going to hang on to that? And they might even be really kind when they say that to us. Like I've had people say lots of things like that to me as a survivor. This is just, and they're not trying to be hurtful. They just don't understand. And so, it's kind of like, shouldn't you just be allowed? You deserve better. You should just let go, live and let go, and all this, right? And I understand where they're coming from, but in the same sense, by me saying, yeah, I shouldn't be feeling like this. I should just, why can't I just let go? And blah blah blah, and I'm trying to be, trying to think like they do. That's wrong. We we have a right to all of our feelings. We really do. And I have the right to my anger. I have the right to my discouragement, to my disgust, to my feelings of rage, to my feelings of complete woundedness. I have the right to those. Those are all. I have the right to all of those feelings because those are all the aftermath of the abuse and how it caused me to feel. So they said it's a thinking error that has to be demolished, basically, by saying I shouldn't be feeling like this. It says, of course you should be feeling whatever you feel. You arrived into this moment with your life energies intact and flowing. So you bring your thinking patterns with you into this moment. They create your emotional experience of right now. So if you have a garden, then you know that you have to let the weeds grow big enough so that you can get a firm hold on them in order to yank the little blighters out by the roots. So they say much of the same thing here with the faulty beliefs and thinking errors. Honor your feelings. Find ways to get them out on the table through talking, writing, screaming at a friendly tree, crying, laughing, giggling, hysterically, whatever, listening to music, painting, playing music, singing, dancing, through relaxing, calming yourself and resting. Honoring your feelings means experiencing and expressing them as fully as you can without getting arrested or tromping on someone else's rights. So that's very interesting, and that's true. As long as we're not hurting ourselves, you don't want to hurt yourself, and you don't want to hurt somebody else. But that's what I started to do. I started to write my blog, which was very important. I had already talked to people about the abuse, certain people that I felt that I could trust who were actually interested in hearing about my life and my story, and were trying to kind of be friends and help me out, with my pain. And this was before I hit rock bottom at age 42. But then at age 42, I was on my own. I had no one to talk to, and was hit rock bottom. And I really felt that it was, futile to go on. And then after I made a decision actually to go ahead and start reaching out and get help. That's the best thing I could have done ever. But I started to write my blog and started to reach out to other survivors, and then joined an anonymous support group for survivors of abuse, right? Which was very helpful. Actually, I joined 2 of them, and they were really, really helpful because it was anonymous. You can go on. You don't have to tell people your name. You can get help from people and validation from people who know where you've been, right? And then I started writing, and writing was a huge help for me. And then I started talking on Blog Talk Radio 2009. And I've done like 1,150 shows. I did more than that, actually, but some of them are for another group that I was working with, volunteering with. And then I did quite a few more that actually got lost here. So there's about, I think, I don't know, 300-400 that were lost. But most of them are still here. So, but it really was helpful for me, and also just to be to try to gain, not only get support, but to be a support for other people, And so I think that's awesome. And just whatever you do, make sure that you do get help, right? If you're having trouble, so many people do have a problem with this in this area, because the feelings and the emotions are just too much, and they're, it triggers people, it causes people a lot of emotional difficulty. So what I would say, what I tell all my survivor friends actually, is don't suffer on your own. Get help. If you have to get a counselor or therapist, then you do, because you do whatever you need to do in order to keep yourself safe and to get the help that you need, right? Because we have to be our own best advocates. Nobody's going to really do this for us. We have to be the ones to make these decisions, right? So we'll pick up some more of this. It's a huge, lengthy article on Friday. And we'll move to positive reinforcement. What am I doing right in my daily walk? Looking at positives and progress instead of just negative thoughts, It's too easy to get down on ourselves. I would say just the fact that, I took a month off to take a break, which was a really smart idea, because I was just so angry. Need to get a hold of my anger and deal and process it, right? Not push it away or push it down. I needed to process it. So the first couple of weeks that I took off, I did a lot of processing and processing work of my anger, which really was helpful, because I'm in a much better place now than I was, and which is better for my life. I mean, I can breathe, I can think properly. My thinking skills are back where they should be. My processing abilities are back where they should be. I'm feeling much better. I'm glad that I did that work. So, I'm learning how to do these things and learning to watch for the triggers and learning to watch for what I need to do to take care of myself, which is really important as a survivor of abuse, because that's the problem with most of us. We were not shown how to take care of ourselves. So many times survivors of abuse don't have a healthy mentor growing up, right? There's nobody healthy, nobody taking care of themselves around us when we're growing up abused, right? So many times. And so we don't have anybody to look for an example, really, of how to do this stuff. Might have known a few examples, but didn't spend enough time with them, to really get the information. So I'm glad that as I'm getting older and doing the work on this stuff, that I'm actually doing it and taking responsibility for myself and saying, this is what I need. This is what I got to do. And it's so important. Excuse me. So that's one good thing. And also just that I keep going, I'm, trying to get things done, and I try to stay on top of things. If I miss something, I don't get too down or too hard on myself, because, things happen, things come up. Life just doesn't work on certain schedule all the time, right? It just does. It just doesn't. And sometimes I can't get certain things done, and sometimes it just doesn't work out. And that's the way it goes. I'm not going to be hard on myself. Just keep trying every day to do the best we can, right? So I think that's important. Look at this is Havoka's Getting Started Affirmations. And I'll just read one off here. I like these affirmations. They make you think about things. It says, this one is, I am well organized in every phase of my life. Okay. Well, I'm not well organized in any phase of my life, really. I can walk around saying that all I want. But, this is something that we could actually say to ourselves. I'm well organized in every phase of my life. I'm not what do you want to call it, an overachiever, right? I don't even try to be an overachiever, because I know that I'll fail, right? I only set myself up with goals that I know I can accomplish. So I don't set myself up for failure all the time, you know what I mean? I do push myself to attain goals, but I don't, try to be an overachiever in everything in my life, whether it's work or relationship stuff or, anything like that, because I already know that I'll fail. So, because nobody's perfect, right? We can't be perfect. I could say that I'm well organized to the best of my ability in every phase of my life. So I know where my abilities are. I know the limitations. I know my limitations. I know what I'm capable of doing, what I'm not capable of doing. And I think that's important, is to get in touch with what we're what we're really capable of doing and honoring that, because there's certain things, there's certain situations, I'm not going to be well organized in, and this is just the way it goes, and I have to just honor myself and give myself credit where credit's due, and work a little harder where I'm sort of falling behind, and knowing that it's not going to be perfect ever, but it's the best that I can do. So at the end of the day, when I lay my head on the pillow, I've really done the best that I could. And I know that because it's all I can do, right? So I think that's important. And let's see, what else do we want to look at here? There's all kinds of interesting stuff here. That's Avoca as well. This is a meditation gallery from Irving Studios. Irving Studios, that's a really interesting website. It's also for survivors of abuse. Michael C. Irving, he's a sculptor, therapist. He's also he's like a counselor. He's a survivor of abuse. And he's got this Quilt Square meditation page. And this one is for healing thoughts. And it says the first one is be aware of where you're hurting. So this is healing thoughts. Be aware of where you're hurting. So that's anywhere, like hurting in our mind or hurting in our body or hurting emotionally, physically, spiritually. Be aware of where you're hurting. I could be aware of where I'm hurting, right? And then breathe cleansing energy into the pain. Breathe cleansing energy into the pain. These are meditation squares. You can check these out. These are really interesting. And then breathe out the suffering. So breathe cleansing energy into the pain and breathe out the suffering. Imagine yourself in a healing place. And let a healing breeze or soothing water wash through your being. And take in a purifying breath. Breathe out the color of the pain. Breathe in a healing color to fill the space you have emptied. These are really, really cool. These are quite helpful. I like to, I do healing, inner child healing work, and it's based on a program called Your Envisioned Mind by Beverly Searle out of Australia. It used to be called Forget Talking Therapy, but now they've changed the name years later to Your Envisioned Mind. It's really a great program, and it helps me out immensely. And this is kind of the sort of the stuff that you can do to get into the actual meditating of doing that inner child work. And I find it very helpful for myself. I don't know. Not everybody might get something out of that, but I know for myself that sort of stuff really helps me out. It's from www.irvingstudios, irving studios.com /abuse_survivor_monument. If you just want to go type into your browser Irving Studios Child Abuse Survivor Monument, it'll come up. And click on that, and under their Survivor tab, you can find all their survivor information for survivors of abuse, right? And let's see, how much time do we have? We've got a couple minutes left. Also on the Irving Studios, they have these coping mechanisms. What can we use to cope daily, right? What can we do to help ourselves to cope, right? They have, he's got these containment boundaries. These are creating physical boundaries. So hold your belly in or hold a set of your muscles taut, creating physical boundaries. Feel the wall or bubble around yourself that keeps out what you want. I've actually done that before. Feel your energy or sense of strength. Feel yourself being tall or getting taller. Cross your arms or legs, right? Move to a location where you feel stronger or more protected. So it could be a location in the room or in the house or wherever you're at. Experiment with changing your posture to a position where you feel grounded and empowered. These are some things that we can do to create physical boundaries. You can go check his stuff out, like irvingstudios.com. It's really good. So we have about a minute left. So let's look at a quote. How about this one? Change your thoughts and you change your world. Norman Vincent Peale. That's awesome. That's from Brainy Quote. Change your thoughts and you change your world. Isn't that very true? Change your thoughts is very important. We deserve to live a healthy, happy life. We certainly do, just like everybody else. And we did not deserve to be abused. We got to change our thoughts, man. We did not deserve that. And we do count. We do matter, right? And we do deserve to have a good life and a decent life. And whatever you do, be good and kind to yourself today. Reach out, get some help. If you're struggling, go to NAASCA.org, NAASCA.org. That's a great website. That's for survivors. It's a National Association for Survivors of Child Abuse. Go check that website out. That's great information there. Be sure and get help. There's a lot of good support there for survivors of abuse, NAFCA.org. They also have a Blog Talk Radio show as well. And Bill Murray and the team. And make sure you get some help. Reach out and get some help. Don't struggle on your own. And I wish you a really good week ahead. And we'll hopefully chat with you this coming Friday. I plan to be here Friday. And I hope that you have a good week ahead. Get help. Like I said, don't struggle on your own. Take good care of yourself, everybody. Until the next time. Bye-bye.